Hello. Good morning, everyone. And we are back again for our monthly ethics seminar. So, to officially begin, um, good morning and our very warm welcome to everyone who are here with us in person and those who are attending the event virtually, since we are also simultaneously broadcasting this through Facebook Live and through Zoom. So this is the fourth episode of the monthly ethics seminar series, or MES, as we like to call it, of the University of the Philippines Diliman Research Ethics Board, which we started dubbing as well as Etika Inan at Etika Alaman, since we timed this during lunchtime. So this public service information drive is a regular mainstay activity of the UP Diliman Research Ethics Board, happening every second Thursday of every month. It intends to present lectures and discussions on matters concerning the responsible and ethical conduct of research, most especially those involving human participants. It is designed to be informal and conversational, hence the idea of having conversations and exchange of insights over lunch. So the UP Diliman Research Ethics Board, apologies for the feedback, will endeavor to present discussions and lectures on topics that are most relevant to the current and very diverse research and scholarly needs of UP Diliman and other academic institutions, mindful of the requirement to always be up to date with the latest ethical approaches and standards in the conduct of research. I am Gretchen Velarde, the coordinator of the UP Diliman Research Ethics Board and your moderator for today's discussion. Before we begin, please allow us to also read some of the to also have some of the read some of the reminders that we have for the participants. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to type it through Zoom or through Facebook. Yes, and we will gladly accommodate them at the end of the lecture. Without further much further ado, we would like to introduce our speaker and resource person for today. Um, uh, so, uh, to formally introduce with her topic on, sorry po, the bridging meeting the gaps in research ethics. Dr. Salome Nicdao-Vios. So she's a retired professor of neurophysiology of UP Manila College of Medicine, where she graduated as well. And she took her degree in where she also studied. So she did her residency in adult neurology in PGH. She was also a visiting scientist in the Conitoxin Laboratory Department of Biology in the University of Utah. She then worked as a visiting professor in the Department of Clinical Neurophysiology at Prince Albert Hospital in Sydney. And then she did her postdoctoral training on neurophysiology at the University of Sydney. So currently, she is the chair of the Ethics Committee of the Philippine Neurological Association and a member of the Philippine Health Research Ethics Board, or FREB, and the Forum for Ethical Review Committees in the Asian and Western Pacific region, or FERCAP. So Dr. Vios is a fellow of the Philippine Neurological Association and Physiology Society of the Philippines and a diplomate in the Philippine Board of Pain Medicine. So she has held various positions, some of which are as chair of UP Manila Research Ethics Board from 2010 to 2012. She also was the chief of the Research Implementation and Development Office of the UP College of Medicine, the president of Pain Society of the Philippines, UNESCO chair in bioethics from 2015 to 2017, a chair of Committee on Standards and Accreditation of FREB from 2016 to 2019, and then chair of the ad hoc committee for the revision and updating of the National Ethical Guidelines in Research between 2020 and 2021. So her unwavering dedication to protect the rights and welfare of human participants involved in research makes her one of the pillars of research ethics in the country. Again, a warm welcome to Dr. Sally Vias.
UP Diliman. Okay. When you launched the UP Diliman Research Ethics Board, ay nandun din po ako, no? Marahil ang ilan sa inyo ay dumalo noong katatapos lamang na 4th FREB Biennial Summit, no? Maraming umattend sa Facebook, no? Maaaring iba sa inyo ay umattend din, no? So kung kayo po ay umattend noon at nandito kayo ngayon pa rin, ay ako po ay nagpupugay sa inyo, no? Katibayan, katunayan na malaki ang interest nyo, no, sa research ethics. Okay. So ang topic po na na-assign sa akin, no, sabi ni Professor Ungria, ay paano ba na-develop ang National Ethical Guidelines, no? Ano yung mga more or less summary ng mga nilalaman at ano ba yung mga gaps doon sa ating 2022 National Ethical Guidelines sa mga pangangailangan ngayon, no? At paano kaya makakatulong ang community, no, ng mga researchers, ethics reviewers, and other disciplines upang lalong maging maliwanag, no, ang ating National Ethical Guidelines. All right. So, ito po yung outline ko, no? How research ethics guidelines evolved, the research ethics governance in the Philippines, the history of the Philippine Research Ethical Guidelines, the 2022 National Ethical Guidelines for Research involving human participants, and identifying the gaps in the 2022 NEGRIP and addressing the gaps. Okay. So, briefly, I'm sure, no, en- na-encounter nyo na ito, no, yung how international guidelines evolve. All right. So, tatalakayin natin very briefly lang, no. I'm sure you're very familiar with the history of international guidelines. The international guidelines actually evolved from, unfortunately, abuses, no, of human researchers, scientists, experimenters on other humans, no, in particular the research participants. So that's how our international guidelines evolve out of abuses, no, ng mga tao sa kanilang kapwa-tao. Okay? So, ang isa pong napakahalagang sa history ng guideline ay yung mga abuses noong World War II ng mga Nazis, no? Alright. Hindi naman po nalilingit sa ating kaalaman kung ano-ano yung mga eksperimento na ginagawa, no? Exposing humans to mga weather conditions, no? High altitude conditions, no? Just to find out kung anong magiging physiologic effects, no, sa mga taong ito hanggang sa mamatay. All right, no? So, that's why after the World War II, we had this famous Nuremberg trial, no, of Nazi scientists and doctors who were identified to have been involved in such experiments. So as a result of that, in 1947, we had the Nuremberg Code. And essential elements or contents of the Nuremberg Code are the voluntary consent prior to trials, no, and prior animal studies or trials, no, done. For example, there's a new drug, so before it is introduced to humans, kailangan muna ay may animal experiments. Okay? And then it should be medically justified. So there should be a social and medical scientific justification for doing the research, no? And that there should be an analysis of the benefits and risks. More benefits than risks, no? So dapat may balance ng benefits and risk, pero dapat positive ang benefits over the risk bago ma-approvean ang isang research protocol. Yung Nuremberg Code ay sinulat ng mga lawyers, ng mga justices, no? So ang lingwahe nila ng code na yan ay medyo very legalistic. So, noong 1964, nag-meet naman ang mga doktor, mga scientists, no, mga biomedical scientists and practitioners upang makraft itong tinatawag na World Medical Association Declaration of Helsinki in 1964, kung saan ay isang malaking portion po doon nilalaman ay ang mga research guidelines, no, ethical research guidelines using human participants. Okay. And then, yung mas recent development no, noong ating abuses sa kapwa-tao ay alam natin lahat. No? Ito yung Tuskegee study kung saan the doctors no, conducted a study no, observing the natural course of syphilis no, among Black men no, in a community, considering that at that time, penicillin, which is the cure for syphilis, is already known. No? So, yun, in fact, we all know that President Clinton apologized for that. And of course, there are other non-medical research, no? Like the tea room study, no? Ay na-conduct, no? Na may mga ethical concerns. And as a result of that, in the US, they established the National Research Act, and an offshoot of that is the Belmont Report, no? Yung Belmont Report dito ay sinasaad na kailangan mag-establish ng Research Ethics Committee to review proposals or protocols, no? And the three principles of research ethics were established by the Belmont Report, such as respect for person, the justice, no, beneficence. And if we take a look at these three ethical principles in research ethics, they are translated into respect for person. That's the reason why we get the informed consent, right? Justice, which pertains to the equitable recruitment of research participants, no? And then beneficence, that we must always remember to always do good, no? Sa ating mga participants and co-researchers, and to avoid harm, no? Non-maleficence. Okay. And then in the 80s, no? 70s, even 60s, nag-umpisa na po yung mga clinical trials, no? Yung mga new drugs ay kailangan munang ma-clinical trial o ma-studyhan, no? Sa mga tao. And so, noong nag-umpisa ito, bawat bansa who are manufacturing new drugs, they conduct clinical trials in their own country. However, in the 90s, clinical trials became global, no? So, para mas mabilis and also mas maraming population ang ma-involve para sa ganun makita kung ano ba yung response, no? In terms of genetics, culture ng mga ito sa drug na na-develop. Okay? So it became global. Now, when studies or experiments are done globally, we all know that there will definitely be different standards, no? From the first world, no, the low income group, the middle income countries. Iba-ibang standard, syempre po yan, no? So in other words, ang ginawa, nagtipon-tipon, no, itong mga eksperto, and they crafted what we call the Harmonized Tripartite Guideline for Good Clinical Practice, which is the guideline for global research. So in other words, wherever the study is conducted, pare-pareho po dapat ang standard from beginning, from the time the protocol is written, no, conceptualized, written, implemented, and then even after the study, dapat pareho yung standards. Pag na-misstep ang isang bansa o ang isang site, hindi po isasama ang data mula sa kanila. So, ganun po kahigpit yung ICH. And then later on in the 80s, 2000, we have the Council for International Organization of the Medical Sciences, International Ethical Guidelines for Biomedical Research Involving Human Participants. Nag-evolve na po ito at marami na po din silang mga iba pang guidelines, no? Sa mga epidemiological research, research conducted in low-income countries, and so forth. All right. And then in 2011, because of the growing need really to establish research ethics committees to safeguard, no, the well-being and protection of human participants to
Discussions on
ensure
matters
also
concerning the
the
responsible and ethical
credibility
conduct.
of the scientific data of human
No,
participants
dumating na
to
po yang
ensure
mga
our
matters concerning the responsible and ethical conduct, no?
And in 2011, WHO crafted the standards and operational guidelines for ethics review of health-related research with human participants for ethics review. And then most recently, we have the WHO benchmark. And then most recently, po natin yung have the guidelines actually benchmark. And then from biomedical sciences as a result of the process of biomedical sciences as a result of the biomedical. All right, so we have these international guidelines, and in 2017 we have the UNESCO 2017 Code of Conduct for Social Sciences. So we have the UNESCO 2017 Code of Conduct, and of course there are other guidelines, international guidelines also, and of course there are other guidelines. And at the national level, we have the National Ethical Guidelines for Research Involving Human Participants. We have the National Ethical Guidelines for Research and of course we have the National Ethical Guidelines, and then institutional. So ang mga institution po dapat meron din institutional policy. So ang mga guidelines po dapat meron din in a way implementing these international and national way to implement the level these international. So ang pag-implement ito very contextual because we involve very contextual because we involve. So this is the national structural framework for human protection and ethics. I'm sure you've encountered this, just to remind us, no, that at the middle would be the research participants, and immediately around the research participants, you have the, the guards, no? You have the REC, which is a very important committee to ensure safety of participants and also of the researchers. And then you have sponsors and funding agencies, which should also be concerned, no, with research ethics. And of course, researchers, no? Kung tutuusin at the end of the day, no? Yung pag-conduct ng research natin, no? Yung ethical research ay talagang dapat mag-emanate from the person himself. Di ba? Kasi kahit na ano namang guideline, kung pasaway o hindi sumusunod o may ibang intensyon, ay hindi po yan mangyayari. And of course, around the smaller circle, no, outside, you have the regulatory agencies, no, for the drugs. We have the FDA. For RECs, no, we have the FREB, and of course, a very important vanguard din naman po ay ang institution. No, why? Because the institution requires its faculty, its students, no, staff to do research. Dapat may policy ang institution on research, and should be the first institution, no, na maging dapat concern, no, sa research ethics. Okay. Now, just to refresh your memory, so ang mandate po ng FREB, ito ay na-create noong 2006, no? As by way of a DOST special order making FREB as a national policy making body. Nauna po itong mga orders nito bago tayo nagkaroon ng PNHRS law or the Philippine National Health Research law, no? So I think it took more than 10 years, no, ng paghahagel sa ating legislators para magkaroon nitong PNHRS. And therefore, noong na-establish ang PNHRS law under President Aquino's term noong 2013, naging official na under that law na ang FREB, no, ay ang official national policy making body on health research ethics. So ano yung mga function, no, ng FREB, establishment and management and monitoring of research ethics committees, standardization in terms of process, no, of research ethics review. Because in the review process, you have two major components, no? The content, the substantive content, no? Na nagvo-vary yun, although the ethical principles are the same, the application may vary, no? Depende sa protocol. So it's really protocol specific. However, for the processes, pare-pareho po yan, no? You want to review the initial submission. The REC wants to monitor the implementation of the research protocol, and the REC also wants to evaluate, no? For example, final reports. Ano bang nangyari, no, doon sa study? Okay. And these are the other mandates of FREB: advise the governing council regarding programs and policies, initiate and contribute to public consultation, network with local, national, and international organizations. Okay? So ito po yung PNHRS law, no? RA 10532. So general objective po nito is to improve the health status, productivity, and the quality of life of Filipinos. Okay, hindi ko na po isa-isa yan. All right. Now, before the PNHRS law, there were a series of memoranda, circulars, or MOUs, no? Ang isa pong napakahalaga dito ay yung 84053 noon pa, noong 1984 pa yan. So even before this PNHRS, no, may circular creating the National Ethics Committee to ensure that all health research and development proposal conform with the ethical standards. Alright? At sila po ang gumagawa that time ng ating mga guidelines. Okay? Now, with the advent of the FREB, noong 2012, may joint memoranda, no? Memorandum. Ang DOST, ang DOH, ang CHED, at saka UP Manila, NIH, no? Na requiring ethical review of health and health-related research involving human participants. All right. And then later on, I know UP is not under CHED, no, but our HEIs are under CHED. And in fact, in 2019, merong memorandum ang CHED, no, really requiring the HEIs to establish their REC, or kung wala at kung pailan-ilan lang yung research, to have their proposals reviewed by other accredited RECs. And doon sa memorandum na yun ng CHED, recognizing that yung national ethical guidelines be used, no, as the guidelines for all types of research. Okay? And that's the reason why later on you will find out, no, na we included the other forms of research to include, no, accommodate the other HEIs which do not have the white colleges. Okay. So, ang FREB po ay hindi lamang FREB, DOH, no, but it has a memorandum of understanding between NCIP, National Council for Indigenous People, with the NCCA, or the National Commission for Culture and Arts, NM, even National Museum, okay, and of course the FREB, no? Kasi may mga request, sabi nila, may mga request kami dito na magre-research, no? Filipinos and foreigners. Hindi namin alam kung paano ba yan i-handle, no? Ano ba yung ethics diyan? Okay. So that's why in March 20, no? On March 18, 2019, no? Nagtipon-tipon po yung mga heads dito at nagkaroon itong Memorandum of Understanding, no? Okay. So the purpose of the joint MOU, I'm mentioning this in particular because I know that you have, researches involving tong culture and arts, National Museum, no, sa anthropology and so forth. That there's a need for coordination in approving researches involving human participants to ensure compliance with ethical guidelines. Patay na po yung nasa National Museum, no, yung mga cadaver doon, no. Human participant pa ba yun? Okay, no? The code, no? The code of the Helsinki, yung pinaka-latest version, defines, no, what research involving human participant is. It does not only involve the actual face-to-face encounter with the human participants, but it also involves data, previously collected data, yung mga big data, no? Yung mga nasa mga specimen na naka-store, tissues, no, blood samples, data banks, no? Yung mga big data, kasama po 'yan sa human participant. Okay. And then the signatory agencies from the Interagency Committee on Ethics in Research. So meron po tayo niyan involving culture and the indigenous cultural communities and indigenous peoples. No? Mas active po sa lahat dito yung NCIP. Kasi marami po talagang nagre-request, no, ng research involving our IPs. Okay? May pangilan-ilan na na kasama yung National Museum. Okay? I have not encountered actually a research na involved yung NCCA. Okay, maybe the others have. Okay. All right. So, ang function nitong interagency is to build capacities of member agencies on the establishment of research ethics committees and conduct of ethics review. Among the agencies, ang NCCA, they do not want to create research ethics committee because they just want to fund. Okay? So ang nangyayari po, ang nagre-review po ng mga proposals, either po yung National Ethics Committee or yung local IRB or REC. Pag may approval, tsaka sila mag-approve ng funding. Okay? But they do not. But they have attended several of our capacity building. So hopefully, no, they know, they're aware of the importance of the review ethics. And then development appropriate strategies and measures to ensure that research studies conducted on ICC's IPs comply with the RA 8371 and other related laws, and coordinate and cooperate with the appropriate government agencies, non-governmental organizations, and higher education institutions on information dissemination campaign on ethics in research on Philippine culture and arts, specifically those concerning the ICCs and IPs. Okay. All right. So ito po yung sa isang slide, history ng ating National Ethical Guidelines, no? So, hindi po bagong invention yung ating mga guidelines. Noon pa man, 1984, no, as early as 1984, ay meron na po tayong national guidelines crafted by the National Ethics Committee. So, when Fred was born, yung pag-craft ng National Ethics Guidelines, research guidelines ay ibinigay na sa FREB. So if you will notice, no, talagang merong bias towards biomedical, no? Kasi yun yung very active na nag-conduct ng research na nangangailangan ng ethical approval. Okay, so we have 1996, 2005, 2011, no? 2017, and then we have the 2022. All right. So if you will notice, no, medyo nagbabago din yung title, no? Health and health related. Nung una talagang health, no? Tapos ngayon, National Ethical Guidelines for Research Involving Human Participants, because we would like it to be more inclusive. Okay. All right. So, paano ba na ginagawa itong ating national ethical guidelines, no? So we update our national ethical guidelines every 5 years, no? Or 4 years, and sometimes 6 years, pero generally it's every 5 years. So at the beginning of the year, or just before the end of the year, the DOST, PCHRG DOST appoints a committee that will review and update the guidelines. So nung pong 2020, naatasan po kami at ako po ang naging chair ng committee na yon, no? So ito yung mga specific functions: review existing guidelines and identify the gaps that require updating and or development of new guidelines, draft and or assist in developing, revising guidelines relevant to the members' area of expertise, identify and invite experts to help in updating the different general and specific guidelines as needed, determine and assist the Secretariat in securing relevant documents that will serve as additional appendices, references, and supporting documents like law, memoranda, department order, etc. in the guidelines, and set the timelines and ensure completion of guidelines by end of December 2021. Generally po, mga 1 to 1.5 years yung pag-craft niya, no? Ng ating guidelines. Okay. So, sa start po ng meeting namin, no, nagsiset po kami no, ano ba yung napakahalagang mga activities, no, para matugunan itong pagre-review at pag-update, no. So we had stakeholders consultation meeting, no, and this involved academic and hospital-based RECs from various regions. Then research participants, of course, no, sila yung importanteng stakeholder dyan. FREM, which is the Philippine Health Research Ethics Network, the officers and staff and active members. This is an association of research ethics committees, and the CROs, or the companies, pharmaceutical companies that conduct clinical trial in the Philippines. No? So we had orientation meeting with expert consultants, consultation meetings with stakeholders, various agencies, NCIP. We in this particular guideline, we in fact went, a committee went to some of the ICP of the indigenous community and involved, in fact, I think two of IPs, medical societies and organizations, government institutions, and we had regular cluster meetings. Actually, this should be the second, I think, or third. So anyway, the committee had regular twice a month online meeting. Ganun po, medyo kadugo talaga. Twice a week, month pala, nagmi-meet. So every other meeting. We also hired a copy editor, towards the end to edit. And she was or still is the Acta Medica member of the Acta Medica editorial board. Then we had second drafts, and I think the second or the third draft, we subjected that to the public consultations, and I think several of you attended that, and provided comments and recommendations. So we invited experts. In fact, we invited Professor Ungrian. Kanya lang, marami siyang gusto talagang isama. Sorry po, dahil hindi namin naisama. Promise. Next time. Okay. And then we had the fourth draft approved by FREB and PCHRD and DOST and the final copy. We have to upload this first to the Philippine Gazette because product to ng isa palang law or whatever na kailangan sa Philippine Gazette muna i-publish bago ma-print. So we had to wait. So ito po yung some specific activities, no? So we had the stakeholders meeting, no? First of all, yung core member committee, we created what we call yung subcommittees, no? So for example, a committee on sa clinical trial, no? Study. May committee din on social science research, no? So they come from different institutions, no? And also as much as possible from different regions because we want also to cover the other regions. Okay, hindi lang NCR because paggawa po ng contextual din yan, ano? Depende din doon sa kanilang region. So we'd like to have a broad spectrum of participants. All right, so we had representatives, research participants, no, and representatives from RECs from Mindanao, Visayas, and Luzon, both hospital-based and academic RECs. We have the friend researchers, investigators, no? And then we had the CROs involved in clinical trials and the other expert consultants attended the meeting. So we had an orientation meeting. Okay? And then we have this cluster meetings. Ito yung mga parang subcommittees, no? Social sciences, health policy systems, no? Research during emergencies and disasters, no? So very interesting yung chapter on ethical guidelines on research during emergencies and disasters. No, we involved the UP Resilience Institute, the DOH Health Emergency Management Bureau, and I think two RECs from the Bicol region kasi sila yung palaging dinadaan ng mga disasters, no? Okay. And then we also had stem cell research, no, heads of the 3 stem cell research centers in the country, no? Okay, so and other cluster meetings, and then the ad hoc meetings twice a month. Okay. So we actually presented draft 3 for public consultation. Okay, and then hired the copy editor. And finally, we officially launched the 2022 last August 2023. Okay, during PCHRD event. Okay. So these are the 2022 National Ethical Guidelines for Research chapters. Yung pong naka-black print, no, yun po yung mga existing guidelines sa 2017 na lahat po yan ay na-update. Lahat po yan, no? Na-update. Okay. And then yun pong naka-bold naman na black, elements of research and ensuring quality research, no? Medyo substantial yung updating yan because of the privacy law, no? And other memoranda, no, issued by the various offices. Social research is color blue. So yung mga color blue, bagong chapter po yan. Okay, so the cluster in social research was headed by social scientists, no, from major universities and regions. And then we have the clinical research, no, malaki din po yung dyan. Sa clinical research, ang isang major na pagbabago dyan yung doing clinical research and trials on women, no, and children. Okay? Kasi generally marginalized ang women 'pag woman kasi minsan hindi nila sinasama sa clinical trial ano, but we need data about women, no? Okay. And then internet research, yung colored pink naman ay bago na chapter. Okay? Because a lot are doing internet research either as a subject matter or as a method, no, of doing research. And then we have the epidemiologic research, then research involving minors and children. No, it's very important because they are vulnerable group. No, so this covers both any type of research. No, and ang focus nitong chapter na ito is really on informed consent because they have different needs. Okay. Then research involving older persons. We are a growing population natin tumatanda na no at marami ding mga research tungkol diyan. So we need to have some guidelines on how to do research no involving older persons no. Okay, and then research involving people living with HIV and AIDS, no? Marami pa rin din pong gumagawa ng research na yan. And then research involving people with disabilities. Okay. And then a new chapter, research involving uniformed personnel. No, yung ating mga kapulisan, gumagawa din po ng research diyan no? At saka mga kapulisan, military, no? So may certain guidelines sila diyan. And the research involving indigenous peoples, okay? And then herbal research, no? Marami po diyan gumagawa. Research in complementary and alternative medicine, pinaghiwalay po namin yung dalawa kasi iba talaga ang approach sa herbal research no at sa research in complementary and alternative medicine. This involves yung mga nutrition, yung mga acupuncture, mga hilot. Okay? And then research involving assisted reproductive technology, research in mental health, because we have the new mental health law. No? So, kailangan doon paigtingin talaga ang research. No? And all of us are aware, nakita natin, nung COVID, talagang malaki ang usapin no tungkol sa mental health noong pandemic. And then research on cosmetics, genetics and genomic research. Ito yung kulang. Wala tayong population genetics, no? Kanya ma'am, population genetics. Okay. And then stem cell research, we are doing that. Research using human data and samples from biobanks, registries, and databases, no? Ito yung mga big data ngayon na minamine, no? Mga secondary data. Okay, we need guidelines for that. Research on emerging technologies. So, ang bago pong in-include namin dito ay yung AI, no? But very parang nakukulangan pa nga ako because actually, to be honest, we know quite little about AI, no? The time we were writing this, it was still emerging. But now, no, naging concern talaga not only in research but in the academe, no? The use of AI. Okay, I remember si Professor C ang nag-lecture nung nakaraang summit namin on AI, no? Plus a neurologist who is also involved in the application of AI in neurological diseases or disorders. No, so we are doing that now. And then ethical guidelines for research during disasters, calamities, epidemics, or complex emergencies. Ito talaga inter and transdisciplinary yan no? And we all know dalawin po tayo ng mga disasters no. So mahalaga na mayroon tayong guidelines on doing research no during these times. Then health policy systems research. Marami po kasing funding ngayon diyan no. WHO funding, PhilHealth funding, PCHRD, DOST funding, no? So, kailangan ng guidelines daw. And then guidelines for health economics and outcomes research, then international collaborative research, authorship, and publication. Okay. So ang gusto ko lang pong, ma-emphasize ay dito, doon sa 2017 minention lang in passing yung data privacy because we really knew very little about it and how to apply that in research, 'no. So medyo, na-expand namin, 'no, itong, Data Privacy Act, 'no, in relation to the informed consent, privacy and confidentiality of information, and transparency. So, ang isang napakahalaga dito is to ensure that the research protocol includes, 'no, data and privacy management plan. 'No, ito po yung implementation ng Data Privacy Act sa research natin, 'no. So it should address privacy and confidentiality concerns in research, should describe the governance and accountability issues with regard to data management and security, indicate the medium in which the research data are stored, including security measures appropriate to the medium of storage. Yun pong inyong DPO ay very active na nag-contribute dito sa chapter na ito, no? So, thank you. All right. And then, isa pong napakahalagang section sa 2022 ay yung responsibilities ng institution. Okay, talagang in-insert po namin yan ngayon. No? Tama-tama naman, later on, when I talk about the WHO benchmarking, kailangan din pala yan. No? So, dito, the institution should formulate appropriate policies based on the doctrine of diligence of a good parent, based on the Philippine Civil Code Article 2018 to ensure the safety of research participants and integrity of data, incorporating the following provisions but not limited to: requirement for ethical review of research protocols by FREB-accredited REC, monitoring of ethical implementation of approved protocol, provision for administrative support by the administration, no? Ensuring at the same time independence, appropriate legal responsibility of the institution, funding agency sponsor, and faculty, students, and trainees conducting research for any injuries that may result from the conduct of the research, including the insurance coverage if there is any. So marami pong natatakot dito, pero hindi naman po dapat katakutan ito no? Nasa proportion po iyan ng type ng research, no? At, and complexity of research. Ang ibig lang naman po sabihin, in a more practical, if you're conducting, for example, an interview, medyo sensitive yung topic, hindi nyo alam pala may borderline depression yung participant. Doon sa mga tanong nyo ay na-depress, nagkaroon talaga ng clinical, no? Kaya bang i-handle yan nung nag-i-interview? At kanino o dapat bang i-refer yan sa isang counselor or specialist? In other words, dapat may ganong mechanism sa protocol. Yun lang naman po ibig sabihin nun. No, simply, no. But of course, there are other issues na pwede talagang masaktan, no, yung participant and the researcher. Okay, lalo na kung high risk research. And then mechanisms to ensure the integrity of the scientific undertaking. So ito yung bago ngayon na i-consider, no, depende din again, no, sa number of protocols, sa complexity ng mga research, to have a probably an office or a committee on research integrity, no? Okay. So, May 13, 14, no? We had this summit. Maybe a lot of you or some of you attended. Okay, gusto ko lang i-share uli, no? Ito yung mga major topics na discuss. Emerging technologies, in particular AI. So Professor Peter C. discussed the UNESCO guidelines, and then the AI applications in neurologic disorders. And then also the use of a web-based platforms in research among vulnerable population, no, especially children. And then social science research, the ethical principles are the same, no, but the applications may vary. The WHO benchmarking, the need to protect human participants in research, no, This is an added guideline, no, the benchmarking, and the lecture on research integrity, the need to ensure credibility of the scientific endeavor. Okay. So ito po yung 7 benchmarking indicators, hindi ko na po i-describe, no? The legal provisions defining the mandate and authority of RECs in health-related research. So ito po, various levels at the various national level, okay, at the institutional level, and at the level of the REC. Okay. So, in relation to REC structures and composition, compliance, no, a minimum of 5 with scientific members and with non-scientist members, no, assurance of REC resources from the administration, the REC procedures through the standard operating procedures, mechanisms to promote REC transparencies, no? Dapat na, meron kayong website, yung mga RECs. Mechanisms for REC to monitor their performance, no? Self-audit, and responsible research institutions. Okay. So, kasama po ako dito sa study na ito, no? Funded yan ng DOST. So, tiningnan na, benchmark namin yung 2022 NEGRIP, no? So, generally, compliant naman po tayo, adherent to the benchmarking criteria. And then, ito lang yung mga items that need to be added or clearly operationalized in the national guideline. Provision that REC members and chairs shall be protected from being removed prior to the expiration of their terms. So, very specific. May mga kaso na po na hindi inapprovean yung mga protocols, no, ng mga admin and all, inalis, pinalitan yung REC. Nangyari na po yan, no? Okay. And then requirement for REC is to create internal audit mechanism to monitor its adherence to their policies and SOPs. And requirement of REC is to clearly operationalize their SOPs on queries and complaints with clear pathways for participants' complaints and complaints from investigators, no? So this will promote transparency. And requirement for institutions to create system or an office or a committee that will investigate and address complaints of unethical research practices. I'm sure recently mayroong isa sa isang university, no, na ewan ko kung nabasa nyo sa Facebook, no, tamang-tama yung chair naman ng committee ng research nandoon dun sa summit. Sinabi niya, oo nga, ma'am. Okay, nag-leave of absence, eventually yata magre-resign or something, no? Kasi he had multiple or 3 publications, the same article, binago lang yung title, no, sa 3 journals. Okay? And then, so what are guidelines, no? It's a living document. So in other words, pwede tayong magdagdag, pwede nating bawasan, no? Pwede nating i-update, no? It improves the substantive and procedural aspects of review. It ensures effective, efficient, and independent review performance, and must adhere to existing national laws and regulations, no? Dapat consistent din sila. Must be regularly updated. And involvement of inter and transdisciplinary stakeholders, plus active participation of research participants. No? And the need for reviewers, accreditors, other stakeholders to regularly reflect, update themselves on the ethical implications of new technologies and that drive research. Okay. So, dun sa summit, ito po yung key takeaways. Share ko lang sa inyo po. So, adapt and adjust and accommodate to changing landscape. No? The landscape of ethical research is changing. We should know how to address the gaps and adjust. And we need to be willing to change ourselves and change how we see and understand things. That dapat we must transcend, no, our discipline. Okay. And then we need to evolve and adapt to address the issues. So ethics review process will need to evolve fast to accommodate all the new complex and complicated technologies. No? And at this point in time, especially AI, napakabilis po. I'm sure you will agree, no? Yung advances sa technology, nahuhuli talaga yung usaping etika tungkol doon sa technology na yon, no? So dapat we try to keep pace. Okay? And then be responsible on the use of AI. So humans are still the arbiter of values and wisdom. Okay. Kasi may usapin na ipa-review na lang sa AI. Okay. So may mga programs kasi. So humans are still the arbiter. We are still the arbiter of values and wisdom. Okay. And do not forget equity, fairness, and basic principles of ethics in the pursuit of advancing and adopting technologies. Okay. Generate understanding of role and contributions of social science and scientists in our ECs. So now, sa hospital-based RECs, no, we now, FREP requires na mayroong social scientist sa panel. Kasi yung health issues doon, related yun no? Sa community, sa mga tao. Kung wala naman pong resource silang ganon, pwede nilang gawing, ang tawag dito, expert consultant. So, tatawagin lang sila, yung social scientists, no, kung mayroong protocol na, kinakailangan talagang ma-review na isang social scientist. Hindi naman po lahat. Okay? So, yun. Nakita talaga yan yung importansya ng implication sa social, implication ng social sciences nung COVID, no? Kasi sa vaccine trials, kailangan mag-conduct talaga muna ng mga community, organizing, ganon, dahil dadalhin mo yung vaccine sa community, madalian, no? Kasi ayan na yung, so kailangan may protocol, no? SOP tungkol doon, no? During emergencies and pandemics, okay? So understand the role and contribution, no? Interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary approach is important, no? So we have to forgo boundaries between and among disciplines. Okay, and harmonize data privacy laws and policies with ethical requirements, no? So evolving din po ito. We have a commissioner, no, in the panel, and sabi nga evolving talaga ito. And you're actually free to ask questions, and they will address, no, your queries. Okay? So ito yung recommendations at the national and institutional level. Okay. So at the institutional level, maybe it's good to set up human protection program. Okay. Hindi naman kinakailang office. Kung maliit lang naman yung kolehiyo or yung university at konti lang naman yung research, no, pwedeng lang, committee, no? Okay. And then at the REC level, conduct periodic REC self-audit during accreditation, and I think improve transparency mechanisms through relevant information found on the website, and improve feedback mechanisms with various research stakeholders, and address resolved concerns of ethics review clientele. And I think the major issue dyan ay yung timeline, no? Sabi ng iba, mabagal daw ang 8 weeks. Okay, no? So anyway, it's up for the REC. So don't wait for change, make it happen, no? And I think in the next round of revisions, no, I anticipate na wider ang magiging involvement, no, ng mga stakeholders dito, and and even transdisciplinary. Okay, thank you. And we have question? All right. Marami nga yung sightings ng aurora. Meron daw kasing sunstorm. Tama ba? Na yung atmosphere. So anyway, I listed here the chapters. You know, you will only really know the gaps if you use the guideline. Yun lang. So I did not detailed no the gaps. Kasi contextual din yan eh. Depende sa REC and the discipline. Okay? So, right. Mm-mm. Yung bago. Sorry. No, it's okay. Okay. So what are the unique ethical challenges faced by researchers in the Philippines? Promoting, okay, how PrEP contributed to promoting ethical research. So I have actually in the lecture touched on this, no? So we conduct training, seminars, okay, and then we accredit, and during the accreditation, kasama din po yung education doon. Okay. Pointing out what is ideal, what should be. Okay. And I think I have already discussed the overview of FREB structure. Okay. How does FREB ensure that informed consent is culturally sensitive? That's the very reason why we have non-scientists in the REC. Preferably, the non-scientist or layperson should be someone who works, no, or who is very active doon sa community. Kasi yung non-scientist or layperson sa REC, he or she should be representing the participants eh. No? Sasabihin nung layperson, di ko naintindihan itong informed consent na ito. Napaka-technical. Ano ibig sabihin niyang hemolysis na yan? Ano ba ibig sabihin niyang question na yan? So, red flag yon. O, kailangan i-simplify ng researcher yung kanyang informed consent. Hindi naintindihan ng layperson eh, the member. Okay? And then, and also, yung informed consent na yon, may rule po talaga. So, if you are in sa Visayas or Mindanao, no? Merong English, may Tagalog translation, mayroong local dialect translation. Okay? Para sa ganon, tiyak, maintindihan noong participant. So, hindi lang po English or Filipino, no? Kung may Cebuano, no? Sa Mindanao, halimbawa, they speak Cebuano, tsaka yung local dialect nila, dapat may ganong translation. At hindi kinakailang i-translate ng isang linguist, lalo pang napapasama pag linguist ang sorry po sa mga linguist dito. Kasi nagiging technical talaga. So, pwede naman isang barangay, yung barangay chairman o midwife, no? Depende dun sa study, ang mag-translate and then back-translate. Okay? Yun po experience namin. Pag linguist, kung lalong nagiging technical at lalong napakalalim ng Pilipino. Okay. Data privacy and confidentiality, gaya po ng nasabi ko, kailangang isama sa protocol development, no? Yung data management noong study. Of course, it depends din naman sa complexity ng study. No? Kung student research, no? Kailangan lang siguro anonymize talaga. No? May approval ng record section or kung sino man ang in charge. Pero, kung yung data na yan ay magta-travel kung saan-saan, finally, doon sa analysis, doon sa mag-analyze, kailangan talagang may data protection plan. Gagamitan ba yan ng encryption? Like, for example po, no, yung clinical trial. Yan, mula sa participant, no, may device sila, dadaan yan hanggang doon sa sponsor dahil sila yung mag-analyze, no, encrypted talaga yan. So, the REC should make sure. So, yun nga, ang sinasabi ng privacy, proportionality. No? ang titingnan, no? Sino ba yung mga makakakuha ng datos na yan? Okay. Conflict of interest. Sa SOP po ng mga REC, PREB makes sure that there is a provision for declaring and managing conflict of interest. So, pag in-invite nyo pa lang yung REC member, dapat meron silang confidentiality tsaka COI declaration. Okay? Before the start of a meeting, dapat merong COI declaration. When reviewing new protocol, kailangan man COI declaration, no? So, kung kaaway mo yung author, dapat mag-inhibit ka. Kaaway mo yun no? Or kamag-anak, no? Or kamag-anak mo yung head ng funding agency, no? Ikaw ang reviewer, or ikaw mismo ang ang researcher, member ka ng REC, mag-i-inhibit ka, no? Like when I had a clinical trial, I was the chair of UPM Rep, kailangan i-review yung aking clinical trial protocol. So, sabi ko, declare ako ng conflict of interest. So, lumabas ako. So, I was wearing two hats. No? So, nung lumabas ako, I was wearing the hat of an investigator. Ganyan. So, nag-decide sila, nag-discuss, and then after nun, nalaman ko, marami pala akong palitan o i-explain, no? Sabi ko, kayo ha? Pero kailangan kasi no? Nakita nila sa protocol, okay. So, ganun po, no? Sa pag-CCOI. Okay. So, tingnan mo natin yan. Baka, diba? Okay. What is the difference between board and committee? Okay. Does PREB use these terms interchangeably? Is there a correct or preferred term? Okay. Actually, ang preference ng PREB, committee, no? Yung PREB board talaga. Very minor lang po yan Yung some institutions, especially big institutions, they prefer board. No? And so, kami naman, sa PREB, okay lang naman po. Hindi naman po kami stricto dyan sa terminology. When we say board, meron silang policy making body, policy making responsibility, no, or work na they can recommend, for example, no, and they can make their policy. Okay? So yun po ang ng board. Pag committee, wala silang policy making authority, but they can recommend policies, no, to the administration. So, yun. So, pwede po ang board, ang committee, kung malaki kayong institution, no, malaki yung REB nyo, ay yung research review, pwede naman pong board kung meron kayong policy making work. Okay. Sige po. In case of multiple panels in a single, how can it be signified through institutional issuance stating the independence of each panel to review research protocols from other panels and in general? All right. PREB requires the institution, or the institutional level, to issue a memorandum or a hospital order in case you're a hospital, what we call administrative order, stating, one, that the administration is creating the REC as an independent review body. Two, although it's independent, it supports the day-to-day activities of the REC. No? Provision for training, honorarium, no? Office supplies, no? The provision for staffs, no? Provision for office and equipment. Okay? So, may ganun pong issuance yan. Okay? And then, yun naman pong sa mga panel, tinitingnan po namin kasi yung organizational structure ng institution. Saan ba nakalagay yung research ethics board or review? Okay? In natural naman po na it's under a certain office. That's okay. No? And then titingnan namin sino ba yung members nitong REC na yon, tsaka yung halimbawa it's under the, let's say, Vice Chancellor for Research. Okay? Naku, member si Vice Chancellor ng REC. Meron pong ganyan. No? May ganyan. Member ng REC. So, sasabihin namin, may conflict of interest yan. Alright, no? Siyempre gusto mo as Vice Chancellor, ma-approve yung mga protocols at the same time para mas maraming funding for your faculty and students, no? In fact, nasa guideline po yan international that an administrator, no, decision-making administrator who created the REC should not be a member of the REC. Nandun din po yan sa ating guideline. Okay, so yun po. Siyempre, hindi perfect yung ating system, no? Pero as much as possible, no, we want to address those COIs. Okay? So next. As announced during the fourth prep biennial, wow, salamat po dun sa umattend. There are new guidelines for RECs that will be released this year. How big are the changes for these guidelines? Would you suggest that those starting to establish their own RECs submit for accreditation now or wait till the new guidelines are released? So nag-meeting po kami ng CSA, no? So yun po in process ng accreditation will process as is without requiring those newer guidelines, no? So once na-release yung guidelines, doon na i-implement. Okay? So kung nag-apply na po ba kayo ng accreditation? Okay? Kung nag-apply na po ng accreditation, hindi pa applicable yan. Pero the truth is, marami po dyan, nandun na sa ating guidelines, no? Ang nangyari lang, na-articulate lang very specifically. Like for example, administrative order ng institution. Nire-require po namin yan na meron sino ba ang head ng REC nyo? The chancellor, di ba? Okay. So the chancellor will have to make or write that order na establishing the REC or the REB, UP-Diliman REB, independent, that it will support the day-to-day operation and more. Alright? Kanya lang po, yung sa ngayon, talagang inisa-isa para klaro. Okay? And then, many big universities and colleges have websites. No? I'm sure, dapat mayroong website ang REC o REB. Either as a separate website, like UP Manila, or pwede naman na under doon sa institutional website na may page lang. So, that's fine, basta may website. Ang isa ding major na bago, self-audit. No? So, dapat may mechanism ang REC na mag-self-reflect or audit. But I think Prep will come up with a form or a template for this. So yun po, kung nag-apply na kayo, ongoing ang proseso, hindi po namin i-require na yung bagong guidelines. Okay. Pero pag hindi pa at lumabas, ay kasama po yun. Upon checking the application form for ethics review, it is necessary to have a prior technical review for research. In institutions like UPD, with diverse fields of research, how can an REC implement this requirement of reviewing technical soundness prior to submission? Magandang question yan because earlier we were talking about that, no? So, in many institutions, meron pong technical review committee. No? Now, in universities, tsaka mga colleges na may mga postgrad, yung thesis panel nila or dissertation panel nila, pwede ng technical review committee nila yon. No? Kung recognize ng institution na technical yon, pwede po yon. Okay? Ngayon, dun mga sa iba naman na walang ganon, although most institutions who have postgraduate degrees have those mga ganong technical committees, no? Yung iba naman, meron talagang separate technical committee. Alright? So, talagang bubusiin yung protocol. And then, pag-approve, at saka ipapasa sa REC. Now, when we were just starting, number one question, nag-aaway po kami palagi ng technical committee at ng REC kasi pinapakailaman daw ng REC ang scientific review. Alright, na-approve na namin tapos gusto pang ipabago yung certain ano. So very common po yun sa mga bago-bagong nag-establish ng REC, no? So ang advice namin doon, alam niyo, napakahalaga, sabi namin, yung dialogue, yung talagang mag-consult bawat isa. Okay? Now, yung ibang REC, ginawa nila dun sa panel nila, yung technical, may ini-invite silang member ng REC para daw at least medyo ma-address na yung ibang issue para pagdating sa REC, konti na lang or okay naman. Yun, ginawa nila yon. In some institutions, they have a member from the TRB, Technical Review Board, in their REC. Para kung may question yung REC, bakit in-increase niyo itong N na ito, number of sample size? Madami yata ito, 10% merong intervention kayong gagawin. Usually mga ganun, no? Tama naman yung computation. Pero yung ethics, I mean, it's a new procedure, like a behavioral procedure, whatever. Isa subject nyo, mas maraming mga participants sa intervention. So, may ethical implication yun, no? So, at that point, nakakapag-dialogue na yung member ng technical with the REC. So, yun, mga ways to remedy those tensions. Yes po.
Why does an ethics review board deal with the technical part? I think dapat ang tinitingnan talaga ng ethics review board is the technical part insofar as it affects the participant. So, parang binabalansin natin yan, ma'am. This is how we're trying to help people to understand. Hindi na namin papakialaman yung technical. Whether you do a PCR like this or a PCR like that, hindi namin yan pakialaman. It's just a molecular technology. However, the principal investigator needs to have the reason why you're testing 5 persons versus 10. Because then we have the responsibility to protect the 5 or the 10. How the molecular technique is done in the lab, wala na, hindi na pakialaman yan.
Expertise na yan.
Opo. So I think that needs to be made very clear.
Yes.
But the technical part will only be questioned or discussed if it has an effect on your participant.
Right.
And then ang ano dyan is also it increases the research personnel's the demand on the responsibility of the researcher to understand the basis of his or her protocol. Bakit yan ang ginawa mo at hindi yung iba? So I think more or less if we get that very clear.
Yes.
Di po ba yun, ma'am? I guess.
Yes, oo. Ganun nga po yun, no? Maaari nga, kagaya ng example, no, na in-increase yung N. Bakit mo increase yung N? You're subjecting more, okay? Kasi ganito yun, no? So, yung procedure, in terms of relationship, doon sa ethical implications noong procedure. Okay? So, kung malinaw yon sa both parties, less ang problema o walang problema. Okay. Alright. Sige. Dito naman, next. Vulnerable population. What special ethical consideration does PREB recommend for research involving indigenous communities in the Philippines? Alright. So, mayroon nga pong memorandum of agreement, no? Tsaka meron din yung prior consent, no? Sa NCPI, no? So, parallel. Kasi noon nagka-complain, tagal, isang taon na, hindi pa approvean yung protocol, no? So, ngayon merong parallel, no? Submission. sinasubmit na sa Research Ethics Committee at the same time dun sa NCIP, no? So, a-approvean ng ano, ng Ethics Committee pag may approval na yung NCPI, no? So, yun po. And at the same time, tine-train po yung mga regional, no? May mga offices ang regional NCPI na talagang mag-conduct ng ganong klaseng review. May mga training programs na pong ginagawa, no? Para hopefully malilesen talaga yung timeline na ganyan, no? So, maaring kulang pa. So, kailangan talagang anuhin yan, paigtingan, no? Yung understanding and yung recommendations and training. Yes po.
Yes, ma'am. Sino po yung in charge sa FREB to actually get this discussions going? Para lang po, ma'am, kasi just so that there are some legal changes. There are new laws between ng NCCA and the National Museum, which should be considered in terms of research ethics review, that maybe in the discussions of the four groups must be tabled kasi there would be implications. Also po, habang nag-FREB summit, nagkaroon din ng one-day meeting ang NCIP, the National Commission on Indigenous People, tas pinalitan nila yung kanilang minomodify nila yung informed consent process. So this has, when I was listening to the meeting, this has clear impact on how researchers would get informed consent. My question, ma'am, was the FREB consulted in the discussions? Kasi ma'am, medyo mas mahirap pa kunin ngayon ang engagement in the communities, and I was wondering if FREB was actually part of that discussion, and that's the first question, and if we can continue on the discussions para mabigyang pansin ang punto ng mga researchers din in the discussion.
Merong there's a committee, FREB committee on interagency interagency communications or consultation, no? It used to be Dr. Marita Reyes. Hindi ko alam kung siya pa rin o si Dr. Bongala yung so I will inform the FREB regarding that, no? Mahalaga po actually yan yung ganyang usapin, no? Sure. I will remember that. I will inform Dr. Sonia Bongala tungkol doon. Oh. Sige. Pero merong committee ng interagency. Na-involve ako once with Department of Edu Kasi yung mga high school students, yung mga nagki-clinical trial, no? Magkokongkok sila ng ng halimbawa ng herbal, kung anong herbal yon. Papainumin nila yung driver nila, papainumin nila yung kanilang kasambahay, yung papainumin yung kalaro nila, no. So sabi namin, nakikita namin yan when we do accreditation because we look at the protocols. We randomly select protocols, no? So pag may naispatan kami nun, hindi namin nila-rando, kinukuha namin para makita namin, no? So gano'n, no? Pinapainom sa driver nila, kasambahay, kapitbahay, no? And these are herbal. Kahit sabihin natin herbal, you really don't know the mechanism, no? Baka ma-allergy yun. Pinapayagan ng teacher. So, nakipag-dialogue kami with Edu. Sabi namin, pwede ba, no? Even undergraduate. No? That's why doon sa guideline yung 22, na-advocate ng FREB for undergraduate thesis, no? Minimal risk. Para sa ganon, less ang risk, no? Sa advisor, less ang risk at sa researchers, student researchers, participants, at sa institution. No? After all, yung exercise mo naman is for them to be exposed to the research. Okay. So yun, so ito namang ethical review oversight, how effective has FREB been ensuring compliance, no? So we do accreditation. All right. And actually, for the non-compliant RECs, we've actually a few, no? Dating level 3, nagiging level 2 because of non-compliance. Yung iba naalisan ng ng accreditation. If you look at the website of PREB, nandoon, no, may mga expired na REC kasi hindi sila nag-comply. Yes. Okay na? Yes. Okay. Oh, sige.
Thank you very much po, Ma'am Sally, for that comprehensive discussion. Maybe for now, just to officially close the event, here's Dr. De Ungria po to provide the certificate of appreciation. Sige po. So, this certificate of appreciation is awarded to Dr. Maria Salome Villos for exemplifying her expertise and contributing invaluable knowledge as the resource speaker for the fourth seminar of the monthly ethics seminar series Etika Inan at Etika Alaman, entitled Meeting the Gaps in Research Ethics, held on May 16, 2024 at the NSRI conference room and via Zoom and Facebook Live, given the 16th of May, 2024. Thank you po. Lastly po siguro for the next seminar series on June, the second Thursday again on June 13. So we will have Professor Edlin Jimenez, the coordinator of the UP Manila Research Ethics Board. So we hope to see you there as well. Thank you po.